Okay, guys, as you're wrapping up, I see a lot of responses in the Google form right now. So just to keep us kind of going on time here, we're going to start with just going around tables. We'll talk one feature at a time and kind of go through that input. I was going to say starting over here, but they're in a very deep discussion right now. Oh, there's a lot of finger pointing going on.
So we're talking. So what are we talking about?
There you go. Okay, so if you could just kind of summarize, and you could just pick one thing that you talked about a lot today, or one feature that was really important to you guys overall. If you could just let us know either one feature or one problem that you guys mentioned.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of discussion about the collection and archival of content and the computational power it's going to take to do that. How do you index the information? How do you store the information? Then how do you then promote and present that information in a way that is going to be easily digestible to the user, and it can be in a different form based upon that user. So there's a lot of smart analytics that has to go on in that system, and it's very computational heavy. And so then are we looking at a decentralized system or a centralized system? So all of that for your knowledge management system.
Okay, great, thank you. We're just going to kind of go around the room.
Oh, I know you, Mark. Fine.
Thanks for volunteering, Mark.
You're welcome. What was I supposed to do?
Doesn't even know what he's volunteering for. What was the one thing that you guys talked about the most at your table, or one feature that you'd like to share with us that you'd want in a perfect knowledge management system?
So we discussed what I thought was very interesting problems that a knowledge management system could not address, and that was experience. You still have to, if you're going to ride a bike, you still have to get on the bike and do that thing. So that could not be captured in a knowledge management system. That's one thing we talked about.
It's definitely a major problem with knowledge management systems, getting all that tacit information, how does something operate versus, the hardware specs, definitely.
So one of the big things we were discussing was search capability and being able to find things quickly and getting your top results rather than 1,000 results.
Definitely.
Thank you.
What we talked about in our group was we wanted, in a perfect world, the knowledge management system would be easy to update, no duplication errors, accuracy and verifiability. We wanted it to be recoverable if anything happened. And that was pretty much the general ideas that we talked about.
Definitely things you need in a good knowledge management system. Thank you.
So in our group, we relied on pop culture to help us out. Ease of use, specifically, for a perfect system would be like Jarvis, Cortana, that kind of thing, where we say to it what we want and it finds it for us in different ways. It gives us a visual representation, it gives us documents, it shows its relations to other things that we may not know we're looking for, but we'll need to find.
And I heard talk with we need a knowledge management system that thinks for us. Kind of goes back to that conversation too.
Yeah, our group talked about getting users to contribute to a knowledge management system. That's been a common theme, I'm sure, at every table. Is how do we get our users to not just consume the information but contribute to it? And then another one that came up was integrating with existing tools and databases. As an organization shifts over to a wiki or a new knowledge management system, you can't just abandon the old systems entirely. There's years and years and thousands of bits of data that we need to integrate. And so creating a wiki or a knowledge management system that can play nice with these integrated systems is important. So that's kind of one topic we talked about.
Great, thanks, Scott.
We talked about the layout and basically the user experience design of knowledge management systems to ensure that people can actually find what they're looking for on the page. They don't get overwhelmed by the system itself, and just be able to retrieve what they need to retrieve as quickly as possible without having to spend a lot of time trying to figure out the layout of the page itself.
Yeah, you definitely don't want all that overhead into a knowledge management system. You can't use it. It's kind of pointless.
Okay. One of the key topics we had was around ease of use, having your site or your system be user-friendly, how to get people in there and using it without excessive amount of training that they may or may not go through, and getting people engaged and using it.
Thank you.
One of the things that we discussed, kind of going off what Sherry said with ease of use, is accessibility. A lot of our people that use or would like to use our knowledge sharing system are out in the field, and right now our mobile capabilities leave much to be desired. So we're hoping to come up with a better solution with our next iteration so we can help them out.
There's two things that I'll add to that people mentioned. One of them was findability, and we thought that was important. And we thought about keyword searches being one thing, but also tags and classifications, ways to filter so that when somebody searches for something, they get a targeted list that's relevant to them. The second thing was the cultural change aspect to it. So on one hand, you can try to mandate that everybody uses the wiki, but on the other hand, you want to try to implement intrinsic motivation like we talked about. But we want the user to have insight into the data and the value of the data so that they edit.
We probably talked more about problems we see that we're dealing with now, and a lot of ours comes from we don't have good, authentic searches. The data we're using is no metadata, a lot of scan and dumps. There's, version control, and we just have bad data due to no governance and we're not, and so we're just unhappy with our data that we're searching.
And it's all over the place, and
Yep.
you can't really get to it. And accessibility too. You have to have, they're putting in all these different systems, and each system requires a certain level of permission to get into it, and they may have one contact point, they have another contact point. So you don't really know how to get to that data or who has the ownership of the data. So how can we get some form of higher level searchable console where then it feeds and knows where to get to it and who you need to contact or how can you get access to it?
Yeah, we definitely need some better integration, better search
across the multiple
capabilities.
data. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
One point that we hit on was that, regardless of what system you pick, kind of commit for the long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you put so much investment in your knowledge management system, there's nothing that's going to be more irritating than shifting gears every 5 years to move to a new system. So pick something that's adaptable.
Yeah, definitely don't want to keep changing your knowledge management system every year. It'd be painful.
And I think one more aspect of a perfect knowledge management system is the capability for the user to get the information without having to ask for it or search for it. So it's more like a push me, pull you capability, and we think of Dr. Doolittle in that.
Okay, we still have some time if anybody has any more comments to add or some questions about a knowledge management system. I like walking around more when I talk. So what I'm hearing is for this breakout session, a lot of you guys have mentioned search. We need to have really good search capabilities, and not only do we want it to search, we want it to kind of predict what we really meant to search. So if you say the word dog, right, or maybe we want a Labrador, we don't just want a dog that we're trying to search, and so it's that predictability and that search capability as well. The other thing is integrating. How do we integrate multiple knowledge management systems together? How do we make them play nice? Do we have a portal? Do we have a one-stop shop? How do we get those silos and people working in different groups to work together? It's one thing that we've been really facing lately. And then, of course, you have the ease of use, too. You know, you don't want to put years of training in just so you could use a knowledge management system. We want it to be intuitive. You know, it's like little kids playing on iPads now. They just do it automatically. You know, we want it to be easy for people to just pick up and kind of go with it right away. And do you guys have any other questions or comments that you'd like to add to that? We have our Google form with all of your comments in it, more than just the one per table. And we'll be sending those out to you later, along with some of the comments that we've heard on the side. So hopefully that'll be useful for you guys. We don't want to just leave you with all these ideas floating around in your head. So at 2:15, we're going to start a collaboration talk. This is actually a breakout session. So there's going to be 2 sessions going in parallel. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get up to that 2:15 time frame. But one of those sessions is going to be how do we collaborate together to fix some of the problems that our current knowledge management systems have. So if we, you know, the common thing that we talked about today was search. If we really need a good search engine, you know, can we work together to create a really good search engine? You know, between centers, between organizations, mainly in the Houston area here, can we work together, you know, outside of our own organizations to help us achieve maybe slightly separate goals, but still ultimately the same thing. Still got 15 minutes left. Do you want to talk about some of the ideas that you've had? Okay. Okay, great. We'll just give you some extra time. So.
Yeah, so we'll transition here, give us a couple minutes to swap computers, and then we've got Dan Ostermeyer from wikiem.org.